This tweet read pretty deranged to me. Sorry to be very blunt. Just seems a bit off. The exploit has been fixed, but don't get this wrong. We're at war. We're under attack. They don't want diversity. They only want monopoly. We will endure. We will prevail. We will succeed. It's just like a bit of a rambling tweet from Stars Arena. So I'm not sure what's up here.
A quick shout out to our sponsor who made this video possible. Unlimit, borderless payments, local to local, local to international. UNCX Network is a leading DeFi multi-chain service provider and the creator of liquidity locking. More on them later in the show.
Welcome everyone, this is Cami Russo, the founder of The Defiant. We'll be going over the biggest headlines of the week starting October 2nd. Some of the biggest topics we'll be talking about is on the SocialFi front, Stars Arena of the Avalanche network erupts in this blockchain-based social media space. The IMF has a scary warning for crypto. We'll look into what exactly that is. It was the first week of trading for ETH futures, ETFs. The trial for Sam Bankman-Fried started. And finally, I'll get into the trends that I'm watching. So let's get to it. This week, SocialFi dominated headlines in the DeFi and Web3 space. Some of the most interesting developments I saw is that there's a new rival for Friendtech called Stars Arena. It's a Friendtech copycat. So basically, an app that lets people follow others, buy shares of other accounts to enter private chats. There are some minor differences on how it works. I still haven't tried it myself, to be honest, but from what I've read, I think the account is abstracted a bit more than from Friendtech, and there's also a public feed, whereas on Friendtech there is only this private chat between account holders. But in any case, very much the same sort of solution. And Stars Arena launched recently, and it really has made a big impact on Avalanche, one of the biggest layer 1 networks. And this social media application caused transactions on Avalanche as a whole to really spike. So here we see transaction volume on Avalanche jump to almost 600,000, so 585K October 2nd, and that's from around 250K the day prior, and that's being driven by this new SocialFi app. TVL on Stars Arena also jumped in the past couple of days, crossed 1 million Thursday, October 5th. So lots of traction in this Friendtech copycat. So interesting that these SocialFi applications are gaining traction. So we're seeing that people are willing and are liking to interact with these more consumer-facing blockchain apps in line with the consumer crypto trend that I discussed last week in the show. This sector is picking up. I think it's pretty bullish that we're seeing social media applications built on blockchains that are proving to be compelling because they're fun to use on their own. Like, sure, there's like an element of airdrop speculation there, but these things are actually usable. They're a bit clunky, but nothing that a non-crypto native could use. Like, you don't have to be a degen to have fun using Friendtech, and I assume same is true with Stars Arena. So this really speaks to the evolution of of crypto during the bear market. Friendtech is built on Base, that's Coinbase's layer 2. Stars Arena is built on Avalanche, this alt layer 1, if you want to call it that. But, you know, these social media apps really do require very fast transaction speeds, and they are achieving it. They're getting to a place where transacting on these applications is seamless, which is really bullish in my opinion for crypto going forward, for adoption in the next bull run. When the new wave of users comes to crypto, starts using these applications, they'll see that, you know, they can actually have fun. And it's not just about airdrop farming. So that's really bullish on the SocialFi space. I just thought this tweet where, you know, Stars Arena was exploited. Very briefly, they were able to fix the exploit pretty quickly, but, you know, just a heads up that this tweet read pretty deranged to me. Sorry to be very blunt. Just seems a bit off. They're saying that the exploit has been fixed, but don't get this wrong. We're at war. We're under attack. They don't want diversity. They only want monopoly. We will endure. We will prevail. We will succeed. It's just like a bit of a rambling tweet from Stars Arena. So I'm not sure what's up here. Something to be aware of when you're using this app. They do seem to be just very angry at competitors, it seems. Moving on to other Friendtech headlines, like I said, Stars Arena wasn't the only one who was attacked this week. Friendtech also suffered a series of SIM swap attacks. Hackers were able to get access to Friendtech users' telephone accounts, and through that hack into their Friendtech account and drain their ETH. So that accounted for tens of thousands of ETH drained from the SocialFi app. So if you're using these applications or really anything on the internet, it's a bad idea to use your phone as part of your ID, and 2FA, use another sort of authentication system than your phone. Because it has proven to be a very kind of weak security system. Or I guess phone numbers are very easily hacked. So just make sure that you switch up your 2FA on Friendtech or really anywhere else. So that happened there, and I saw reports that Friendtech had the worst day in terms of outflows right after this SIM swap attack. So it really looks like people were spooked and started cashing out and leaving the platform. So maybe that also was benefiting competitors like Stars Arena and other copycats. You know, people not feeling as safe on Friendtech anymore, looking for similar alternatives to it. Another controversy that happened on Friendtech, Manyfold, which is a hedge fund that's been very much involved in the platform. It's launched different tools for Friendtech users. They admitted that there was some sort of insider trading with Friendtech keys, where there was someone inside of Manyfold Trading that was able to scoop up keys at launch. So anyways, read more of the details on our story, which we broke actually. So yeah, lots of movement, controversy, activity around SocialFi. But in general, I think the big takeaway here is that, you know, it's just bullish that we're even able to have these consumer-facing apps built on blockchains in the first place.
Before we continue, a quick word from our sponsors. Grow your business with Unlimited's borderless payment solution. Leverage one of the world's largest proprietary payment infrastructures available in Europe, LATAM, APAC, Africa, and the UK. Looking to grow your community's trust in your project? Explore UNCX Network, the home of liquidity locking and secure DeFi token services. With over 40,000 locks created and TVL upwards of 200 million, they have a reputation for secure products that developers can rely on. Their services cover most EVM chains and include an ILO launchpad, token vesting, token minting, staking, and farms as a service, and the most reputable liquidity lockers on the market. Now, back to our show.
Okay, next up is this very scary warning that the IMF had about crypto, which they said unregulated crypto could lead to an alternative financial system. And, the crypto industry says that's exactly the point. So this was very amusing to read. The IMF put out a working paper last week where they said crypto asset technologies, if not were regulated and supervised, could create a de facto new and alternative financial system. It's funny that they recognize that's the case and that they see it as something to warn against. Of course, all of us in crypto this is exactly what we're creating. We're working towards a new and alternative financial system where a transparent, immutable public record is what is keeping clearing and settlement of financial transactions that the IMF in the report recognizes, but they see as, as a risky sort of infrastructure that introduces difficulty in regulating assets, and so they feel they need to warn against this transparent ledger. But myself and most of us in crypto will say, well, actually this distributed ledger, this transparent settlement system for finance, will actually makes for better infrastructure for finance. It's inherently more transparent. It allows more access to financial services. It allows for a more efficient transfer of assets and value. It cuts out intermediaries. Of course, there's risks involved, but the main point here is that we're creating a better financial system, and we should be advocating towards it and building towards it. It's funny that the IMF recognizes this. They talk about how important at discovery and innovation this distributed ledger tech is, but they are so stuck in wanting to keep things as they are that they see it as a risk and feel the need to warn against it and to create a framework for how to create policies to restrain this system. So I think it's just a very interesting insight into how traditional legacy institutions are thinking about crypto. Here's a report in case you guys want to read it yourself. It's called Assessing Macrofinancial Risk from Crypto Assets. Moving on to another important development this week. ETH futures ETFs started trading this week, but it was pretty underwhelming. I talked about how the anticipation of ETH futures ETF was driving the Ether price. Well, that kind of fell flat. ETH retraced a bit the gains because in part it was a bit disappointing to see that there wasn't much institutional adoption for these instruments, at least on this first week of trading. So there were 7 new ETH futures ETFs, and they drove just 1.7 million worth of trading on their first day. Yeah, the Valkyrie ETH and Bitcoin ETF was the instrument that got the most value traded. VanEck came next, and then ProShares after that. It's interesting that the Valkyrie one is ETH plus Bitcoin, and then VanEck and ProShares are strictly ETH. They were pretty close in the volume traded. And then, there's a few others that also started trading this week, but pretty underwhelming. So we'll see if institutional interest for ETH increases over time. Yeah, and ETH was down 2.2% this week. Another big headline this week is Sam Bankman-Fried trial started in Manhattan. We had both sides give their opening statements. Nothing huge came out of it. The jury introduced themselves, but we haven't seen anything too surprising come out of the trial. We'll be keeping an eye out on this, of course, see if anything interesting on the DeFi front surfaces. Somebody was saying that we might get insight into who Chef Nomi is. I have no, this was just like baseless rumor that I saw on Twitter, but it's something to keep an eye out on. If you guys remember, at the time of the SushiSwap launch, SBF was super involved in the project. So I don't know, maybe we get some clarity on who the infamous Chef Nomi was. And then to finish this recap, an interesting trend that I saw popping up this week is curation. So it looks like after we've built a pretty solid, if you want to call it, asset class with NFTs, there now seems to be a need for platforms that will curate, that will help users surface the interesting content, interesting NFTs. So Mirror, the Web3 publishing platform, revamped its front end to allow for NFT curation and for a way for users to surface Mirror's NFTs. And then Cooper Turley, who was, fun fact, one of the first writers for the Defiant, he also announced something similar for songs, for song curation. On-chain curator is what he announced. So this seems to be an interesting trend popping up, something to watch. Speaking of consumer-facing apps, apps that allow for curation of Web3 experiences seem to be trending right now. And then finally, this is a really interesting article on Protos, on Bitcoin's ordinals. If you guys remember, a few months ago, ordinals were all the rage. It's Bitcoin's versions of NFTs. And people were very excited because finally, you're able to issue NFTs and issue ERC20-like tokens called BRC20 tokens on Bitcoin. And, finally people were able to play around and build stuff on Bitcoin. That kind of fizzled away. I haven't heard of much else being done on top of Bitcoin with these primitives. And Protos came back to this theme, and looking at the data, things have kind of fizzled out. So the speculation was that all of this activity relating to ordinals and BRC20 tokens would increase Bitcoin transaction fees and make the protocol more sustainable for miners. But that's not happening right now. So after that initial spike in May, after launch of ordinals, its fees have come down to pretty much where they were before. And that's because ordinal users have become more savvy Proto says, consolidating inscription processes into fewer transactions. I thought this was just an interesting piece to watch. I thought, I was excited to see this happening on Bitcoin. I thought it could be a sustainable development to just see more building on top of the original blockchain. But for now, it seems that that optimism was a bit premature. We'll see if people start coming back to building on Bitcoin. So that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed the show. Let me know what you think. We're also trying to think of a name. So if you have any suggestions, drop them in the comments. And see you all next week.